Obey God as supreme authority. Obey God as supreme authority. Uh, the book of Acts of Apostles, chapter 5, verse 20 to 29, it says, John and Simon Peter were preaching at Jerusalem. They were healing some people who were paralyzed, others were different disease, demon possessed, others were long for hearing the good news. They were received Jesus Christ. It caused jealousy among the high priests, especially Sadducees. They lay hands against the apostles and put them to prison. And the next day, the council were held against the apostles in order to sentence them. They went them to bring them to put them out of in prisons in order to sentence them. But the night, the angel descending where the apostles were and brought them out of the prison and sent them into Jerusalem to continue the work of Jesus Christ. And when they saw that in prison they were not, they came and told the high priest, say, we found the prison is closed, but they were not. And they were perplexed and said, what kind of this man? They sent them to bring them into in the temple, to bring them in order to sentence them. So when they stood in front of the high priest, John, Peter, and other apostles, the high priest, especially Sadducees, told them, we forbade you not to continue preaching such a name. I mean, in the name of Jesus Christ. And Simon Peter and John stood and said, we are to obey God. We obey God rather than obey man. They stood bold in the name of Jesus Christ, not in words, but in action. The same principle the disciples stood for are the same principle in adherence, the area reformation. When in Germany in 1529, they held a meeting about the religion and liberty. Because the Roman Empire, they brought the motion, not Catholic only, not other religion, not other denomination, not other reformation. There are other part of minority about who followed the teachings of Luther. Among them were some minority of priests. In the meeting, because the minority had the power, especially priests, they stood and said they rejected the motion of religion or liberty. They said that a minority of priests had power, but majority have no power. So they reject such a motion, and that is how the liberty of religion, freedom of self-conscience were held. It seems that the dark were about to cover the whole world because there were no reformation. But because in the meeting, the priests were to choose whether prohibition of dissemination of reformation or the teaching of Roman Empire only were to be held. Had the priests accept prohibition or dissemination of reformation, it seems that the darkness were to cover the whole world, but the princes of minority who had power reject such as motion. And this is how the right of the world prevailed. The right in the holy writings of Luther prevailed. The light among those who had reformed against the Roman teachings were prevailed. This is how the right of the world prevailed. Again, where are you stand for? What is your principles? We obey God rather than God's man, rather than man's will. There is a time that everyone will stand on what his beliefs, whether on part of God or part of man. Not it will be in conscience of heart and mind whether to choose or not choose. May God help us